Perhaps you just saw my previous segment where they claimed that people who don't eat Chinese food right now are racist, because we're going to up the ante. Just when you thought the caricature of the woke left could not get any crazier, I bring you a New York Times editorial board member who did bad math on MSNBC, which everyone ragged on her for, and then tried claiming it was racism. That's right. When she got dragged relentlessly for doing math poorly on live national TV, she actually wrote this: "My people have been through worse than a Twitter mob. When you're a black woman in America with a public voice, a trivial math error can lead to a deluge of hate." That's right. People weren't yelling at her because she is bad at math and looks really, really dumb, and she's on the board of the New York Times. She's on the editorial board. It was just because they're racists. That's the easiest way to explain everything away. It's not your fault. It's just bigotry. Okay. Well, let's read the Daily Caller. They say that she received another backlash because she wrote this dumb tweet, this dumb article. New York Times editorial board member Mara Gay drew a whole other round of criticism after claiming that a racist Twitter mob criticized her over an on-air math mistake. Appearing on MSNBC's 11th Hour last week, Gay and host Brian Williams engaged in a back and forth about how former New York City Mayor Mike Bloomberg conceivably could have given every American $1 million with the $500 million he spent on his failed presidential campaign. Both Gay and Williams were predictably raked over the coals. Responding to the backlash, Gay wrote a New York Times op-ed Wednesday, then tweeted it out with the claim that a racist Twitter mob came at her for trivial math mistake. We're here. This is our world. We actually live in this place where you can have a writer for the Washington Post claim that $500 million could give 300 million people $1 million each. It can't, by the way. Gives them about $1.50 or something like that. That tweet then made it through the entirety of MSNBC's production staff, all the way to its anchor and a New York Times editorial board member, who then just parrot it as though it's true without thinking twice. It's so stupid. And then the writer, to deflect the criticism, claims the only people coming after, or the group of people coming after her, are a racist Twitter mob. You know what, man? The stupidity here is so off the charts. It's hurting my brain. It's actually, we are all actually getting stupider for hearing about this. Quote, "My people have been through worse than a Twitter mob," the headline read above the subheader. "When you're a black woman in America with a public voice, a trivial math error can lead to a deluge of hate. Unfortunately, quite a few Americans can tell you what it's like to be the target of a Twitter mob over a gaffe," Gay wrote. "My great sin was trivial, harmless, silly. What's it like when people are trying to cancel you for a math mistake? Weird and maddening and painful." Okay, trivial. I guess, sure, you can call it trivial. But let's just be real. You are supposed to represent the editorial board of the New York Times. These are the people, this is the gray lady, the paper of record. We're supposed to turn to the New York Times, and to an extent MSNBC, for factual information. Now, of course, it hasn't been that way in a long time. But when you see just how bad it really is, I think you deserve to actually lose more than, I'm sorry, I'm not going to say she should be fired over being so dumb, but I'm surprised she was hired in the first place. And this it's a really bad reflection on the New York Times. They fired a guy at ABC News for telling the truth. In a Project Veritas video, this guy says, yeah, we don't give Trump credit for when he does good things. All we're interested in is, the outrage of the day. And they fired him basically because he had embarrassed the company. He was taking away from their credibility. What happens when this woman says something really, really dumb about a simple math problem? She can't do basic division. That makes the New York Times look really, really, really stupid. And we've seen people lose their jobs over honesty, which is sad to me. And this just goes into a long line of stories where we can see just how inept these journalists are. But we're supposed to assume they're bringing us factual information. They're not. Of course, in my case, it wasn't really about math. As anyone who read through my mentions on Twitter or saw my inbox would know, she wrote before listing several examples of racist responses. Numerous Twitter users were quick to say their mockery had absolutely nothing to do with race, particularly because Brian Williams, a white male, received his share as well. John Miller said, "A trivial math mistake to the tune of $999,998.56 per person. But tell me more about racism, you shameless hack." Carpe Donktum said, "LOL, racist Twitter mob. I literally have no recollection of what you look like And I would venture to say that if you think that being off by $999,000 is a trivial mistake, I can understand why you are a Democrat. Stephen Crowder says, what are you implying? I don't know what she would be implying other than what she directly said. You're all racists. Robert Barnes, math is racist. Justin Wang says, I didn't know wrong was a race. Bravo, good sir. That's probably the best one. Oh, they got me in here. I didn't actually say much about it. I just tweeted racist. Racist Twitter mob. Trivial math mistake. Apparently that warranted enough to be put in. I was just sitting there reading this tweet, dumbfounded as to what she was actually saying. Racist over a math mistake. I cannot believe it is a caricature of real life. It's of what these people are. I can't. It's like we're living in a parody. And I'm gonna tell you this. There was a video I didn't pull up. Maybe I'll pull it up later. The simulation is broken, man. Sarah Palin was rapping to Sir Mix-a-Lot. The monkeys in Thailand are fighting in the street because the tourists are gone. Everything is going nuts. I have no idea what's happening. The market is collapsing. And apparently, when you do bad math, everyone becomes racist. It's like we are in some kind of twisted simulation where it's all just falling apart. But hey, at least it's not boring, right? Ryan Savager said, by trivial, she means that she was literally 1 million times off. Jerry Dunleavy said it wasn't particularly trivial, and everyone was dunking just as much on Brian Williams, too. Chicks on the Right said, this is the worst possible way she could have approached this entire fiasco. Seriously. P.S. You are a racist if you read it, and if you don't read it. Brad Palumbo says, of course racism is always wrong, but dismissing your error as a trivial math mistake is unreasonable. It was an enormous error. Literally, 5th grade math was required to adequately understand the wild inaccuracy of the campaign finance error that was made. No, not even 5th grade. We're talking like 1st grade. Like, I don't know about you, but I was in 1st grade when I was taught how to do subtraction, how to do division. You know, I think most people learn division in 1st, 2nd grade, right? I mean, I was really young. Well, granted, I was homeschooled a little bit. We knew how to take 500 divided by 300. You do a little line and you put it in and then you do the one number at a time. I was in like 1st grade when we learned that. Multiplication to division. Apparently she wasn't. No, what I think it really was, I don't think she was actually paying attention. I don't think her or Brian Williams actually cared to read the tweet. This is the problem of media. I think she knows basic math. I think if you gave her the math problem, she could do it, work it out. What we're really seeing is these people don't actively pay attention. They're living life on autopilot. They walk in like drone NPCs. They don't think twice. Someone says something and they say, yes. And then they're like, and Michael Bloomberg could have given $1 million. Yes. They're not actually having a real conversation. It's going through the motions to create talking points, to sell ads, and none of them actually care. If anything would be an example of the left and their grifters, it's this. Because if they sat down to actually look at the numbers, they would have been like, that's not true. Instead, they decided just to run with it. They didn't care about it. They didn't even bother fact checking. And I'm surprised I have to say this, but some people, if they had actually fact checked it, then they may have caught that math error. But I'll tell you what, people like me, I guess, and other sane, rational adults didn't need to fact check anything. We just looked at the tweet and said, that's not true. That is incorrect. Repeal, this person, Kara Davis says, Omara, just stop. The mistake was not trivial. It was ridiculous. And if the response was so racist, then why was Brian Williams also getting slammed mercilessly? Sorry, the race car doesn't get you out of your epic self-induced embarrassment. Shame on you for trying. Dana Lash says race has nothing to do with it. And most people simply mocked it. She said, FTR, it wasn't a trivial area. It was the difference between $1 million and $1.50. They also mocked Brian Williams, who is a white male. She wrote a full-on op-ed for the New York Times trying to excuse what had happened to her. And this is so much more pathetic than the mistake itself. You know what, man? When you make a dumb mistake, you go, oh, man, am I dumb? Boy, a guy, yep, I deserve it. And if people were like, you're so stupid, I'd be like, yeah, I can't believe it. That was my bad. Instead, she goes, fine, I was wrong, but you're all racists. Grow up. It is children running these newspapers. And now we're supposed to look at what she writes and take anything she says seriously. If you see this and you go on to assume that the editorial opinion of the New York Times has any weight at all after this, I got a bridge to sell you, man. Because these people are about as smart as a box of rocks. They will pass off on every excuse for their failures. and they will be rightly mocked for it. Here's the best part. She's now likely to claim that the backlash to this article proves the racism. See, when I tried calling out the racism, the bigots came for me, proving that they were racist all along. I don't want to live on this planet anymore. Okay, I'm kidding. I enjoy life. We're having a good time. I gotta say, with all of the craziness happening around the world, at least life isn't boring, right? This certainly makes things fun, although it is kind of annoying to deal with these kind of people in daily life. And also, it's kind of annoying when you realize that there are millions of people who get their information from people like this, and they think it's true. What can I say? I guess we're all kind of doomed. But I'll leave it there. Stick around, because there's more to come. I got another segment coming up for you in just a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.